Perfect.
Good evening and happy Friday. This is MMA On Air. I am Charlie Van. Join with me always my engineer, my producer, Austin Harris. Austin, how are you doing this evening?
Charlie, what's up, man? I'm doing great. Good to be here. Another Friday night on the MMA On Air, Dallas On Air Studios, baby. Let's go.
And we are excited because joining us via phone right now, he is new UFC flyweight Shorty Torres, and I'm so excited to have him calling in because I've been a big fan of his since his days in Titan FC, and let's bring him on. Jose, how are you this evening?
I'm great, man. I'm alive. I can't complain. How about yourself?
Oh, pretty good, pretty good. And, you know, I've been definitely pumped to have you on. Like I said, when we were bringing you on here, been a big fan of your work since Titan FC. I think before you were signed to the UFC, I used to send out some tweets saying you got to sign Shorty Torres, especially to the UFC flyweight division. I think he can make some interesting things happen.
I appreciate that. You know, and I feel that I am the Justin Gaethje of the flyweight division. That's something that the flyweights need is that excitement. They need the UFC to really invest in someone, to really invest in the division as a whole, because you know they're not trying to sign anyone. They're not trying to do anything impressive. I mean, you see the top two guys in the division, Sergio Pettis and Joseph Benavidez, in the prelims. Not even in the prelims, in the UFC Fight Pass prelims. I mean, yes, the card is stacked, but Joseph Benavidez alone is a veteran. He deserves to definitely be either in the prelims or in the main card. So, you know, I feel someone with my type of fighting style is going to bring that attention back to the division.
Well, before we get into your win last Friday, by the way, congrats again. I do want to get your thoughts on why do you think not a lot of flyweights are being signed. I mean, of course, a couple years ago, we're almost 2 years removed from the UFC flyweight contender series, which Tim Elliott won. Why do you think not a lot of flyweights are getting their shot yet in the UFC?
I think the big thing is you have Demetrius Johnson, which is a phenomenal champion. Again, he's pretty much cleared out the entire division. The only problem is you have Joseph Benavidez and Henry Cejudo, number 1 and 2 guys, which is awesome. Hey, good for them. They're phenomenal fighters. The only problem is they're investing in guys, the UFC is investing in guys like, you know, Ben Nguyen or Sergio Pettis, and then finally when they get to face these, you know, 1, 2 guys for the number 1 contender spot and the, you know, title contender shot, they end up losing. So it ends up being the same guys fighting for the title. So Cejudo's now getting a second fight. But, I mean, does he deserve it? Technically, yes. But he lost in the first round, I believe, in the first 2 minutes against Demetrius Johnson. He's getting a rematch. No one honestly really wants to watch that, and they probably think the same thing's going to happen. Same thing with Joseph Benavidez. Does he deserve a third title shot? Technically, yes, because he's beaten everyone. But no one wants to see him lose a third time. You know, so it's the fact of – it's kind of like the Manny Pacquiao-Marquez fight. You know, it's like no one wants to see a 5, no one wants to see a 6, 7. Like, no, barely anyone wants to see a 4. Like, yes, they're exciting fighters, but even good things eventually get boring. So I feel that they need someone new who's going to be able to challenge anyone and make really just exciting fights.
And I want to, touch on about your career so far. Now you're 8-0, but out there you've had dominant performances. You're a 2-weight champion with Titan FC. Do you think because you've had these several highlight reel finishes in a row since you've crossed over to the UFC, do you think with another 2 wins, because the division, the way like you're explaining, is not as deep as it could be, or guys getting pushed, do you think you're 2 or 3 wins away from possibly meeting Mighty Mouse?
Honestly, yeah, I feel at the end of my contract I could fight for a title. You know, they're definitely trying to find someone. I was told that I'm the only flyweight that they were trying to sign. They're not trying to give last-minute fights or anything to anyone. So, which is amazing to hear. You know, it's like, oh, cool. But then my problem is, again, they're not trying to expand the division. I believe the flyweight division has the least amount of fighters compared to any other division in the UFC. So for me, it just leaves that door that much more open of, make some more exciting fights. See, go back and forth with opponents and pretty much challenge whoever the UFC really puts in front of me and, see where it goes from there. But I definitely do believe I can and I do deserve to be fat.
Well, I want to.
It was pretty high. I do know, I've promoted very well, and, I think I'm the fighter to put on a really fantastic show against the DJ.
And one thing I would definitely, and this is going back to your performance last week. And first of all, how's everything been since last Friday? Have you had a lot of new fans made from after that fight? I know the fight was on, of course, that slam and that was on ESPN. But I mean, that was a really, I think an exciting performance from you, because one thing I really saw, I know you compare yourself kind of like Gaethje in your durability, but you're calm. And I was talking to Austin this before we went on air with you, is your composure is so great. It's like, you could tell you're elite level in that. And do you think a lot of that comes from your championship experience and being on, Fight Pass prior and having that spotlight as a champion?
I mean, 100%. My coach, Master Bob Shermer, who's been with me since I was 16, has really taught me to be composed. And honestly, he's put me up against, I'd be a 25er, and I've gone to fights where I'm supposed to be fighting at 25 or 35, and I'm fighting 55 because my opponent didn't show up. Or I'm fighting at 170 for kickboxing because, hey, why not? So he's put me up against some really fantastic guys at different weight classes as an amateur, and now moving up as a professional. I mean, my accolades really speak for themselves, but I fought in front of thousands of people before with the bright lights, with the cameras. It's just now I'm under the UFC banner. So honestly, it really isn't anything different. I did have small UFC jitters just because I never really had time mentally to prepare for the fight. I had 9 days, 26 pounds, all the media, medical tests, all this stuff. So by the time I got in there, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm in there. But if anyone watches any of my fights, the first round usually goes the same. I'm always getting beat up. I'm starting slow, not really doing much. And I'm kind of just, everyone's like, all right, Shorty's not really doing much. He's not really trying. And, well, sadly, I ended up getting dropped. That's not part of the game plan, but we were trying to get Jared Brooks to expose himself, throw some punches, do this, try to outbox me a little bit, and gas himself out because that's what he's known to do. Second round, I'm like, all right, fine, okay, I'll start really doing my thing. I started push the pace, started to land a little more, started to keep him on his heels. Landed a clinch. He got the takedown, and when on the slam, I ended up creating a scramble position, and he really tried to force that takedown because of it, and then put himself in a bad position.
You were talking about on the forced takedown and just kind of going over we like to definitely analyze technique here on this show, and usually a lot of times you see him go drive to the left. Are you surprised he did what he did and he didn't drive to the left?
He couldn't, and that was the thing was. His last fight against the Brazilian, his big thing was, he's a small fighter. He's going to get under your hips. He's going to pick you up, and he's going to try to Matt Hughes you like he did with Frank Trigg. Try to big slam, make it thumping, and just make it look cool. Now, when he picked me up, instead of just flailing my arms or letting it happen, I decided to climb down. It's a college wrestling experience, and I have done this twice in my college career, which is kind of funny. Is usually if somebody picks you up like that, there are two goals. Is reach in between the legs, and when you land, try to be able to spin and circle and create a scramble, or lock the hips. My arms were too short to reach the legs, so I decided to lock the hips. I squeezed as hard as possible so he couldn't turn his body, and two, I pressed my chest up against his back so he couldn't arch his back. So the only thing he could do was go to his knees and just try to fight a scramble, but he just really, really was intending the big slam, and because of it, he literally hopped straight up in the air and landed in a really awkward position for himself and dazed himself in the process.
And even before that slam, I noticed, and Jimmy Smith commentated on this as well, is, he was going a lot for that spinning back fist. I know the second time he did catch you, but you were able to recover. And the third time you were able to definitely capitalize on that. Were you, anything that he did that maybe even came across flashy to you, did that surprise you at all, or were you expecting that?
It's a 50-50 on that because my fighting style does allow people to really open up. They get comfortable in that first round. Oh, he's not throwing. Let me throw this. Let me throw that. Let me do this stuff that I do in practice, which is awesome. And that's something I really wanted Jared Brooks to do because he's known as a wrestler. Again, I'm not trying to, be the attention getter and really have a great performance just myself, but I want my opponents to perform as well. So, obviously he can be boasted about it. We're all after the same goal. It just so happens we're on each other's way, So for him, he threw a spinning back heel kick. He threw a spinning back fist. The thing that caught me off guard was he ended up reversing the direction of the spinning back fist, and that's the one that caught me. Every single one, he was hitting me, I believe, with his right hand. So I was like, I see it coming. I got it. But this one, he reversed the position and switched left, and it caught me off guard, and it was honestly a very beautiful counter. It was a flash KO, hit the ground, and I was awake. He didn't capitalize on it, which I'm perfectly fine with. I'm not going to complain, but that's something that did surprise me, but everything else was perfectly fine. I knew second round he was already starting to gas out. And if it would have made it to the third, it wouldn't have lasted all the way to the finish.
Now, moving forward, what would you like to see next for you? And how soon would you like to get back in there?
Honestly, even for this fight, if they called me last minute to fight Jared Brooks, Tim Elliott, Benoit, Sergio Pettis, or even the best in the world, DJ, I would have taken it. It was the only reason I first originally denied it was because of the weight. It's a last-minute weight cut, 9 days, 26 pounds, obviously. It's a quarter of my weight. I'm definitely not a fan of it. But did it, so be it. It's done. Honestly, I didn't get to have the performance I wanted. I think the highlight reel was awesome. Best case scenario, I'm over LeBron James on ESPN and SportsCenter, the day after, which is amazing. But for me, I want to put on the performance of a lifetime. I want to show people what they really expected and saw, my Titan FC days, and I know I can bring it to the UFC. It doesn't matter who the UFC puts in front of me. I'm more than happy to really just showcase my skills and show that I am going to be one of the best fighters in the division very soon. For me, I think August, September is a proper time. I just want the respect by the UFC and give me a proper 2-month training camp.
And you had mentioned Benavidez Pettis. Who do you like in that fight that's going down tomorrow night?
Honestly, I've trained with both of them. Both of them are great people, great friends. And for me, Benavidez is a veteran. He knows his stuff, but he did show a lot of, holes when he fought Cejudo. And Cejudo was, the stand-up fighter for some reason in that fight when he's easily the more dominant wrestler. For me, Sergio Pettis is a much better stand-up fighter against all of them, all three of them. And I've practiced both of them. I've sparred with both of them. Sergio Pettis can hit. He can strike. He can do his thing. And I think if he keeps his fight standing, it's going to be no problem for him to get the finish against Benavidez. But I do know that Benavidez, once he grabs a hold of you, he's like a leech. He just doesn't let go. So for me, I'm going to go with Pettis on this one just because he's the more useful guy, the new generation guy. And I think his stand-up is what's going to win him the game.
If Benavidez happens to pull off the victory, what do you think will happen? You mentioned to him he has lost twice already to Mighty Mouse, so there might not be, that might not be an attention grabber right there to make a trilogy fight with him going in with 2 losses. What do you expect next for him if he's able to get this victory tomorrow night?
I think honestly, if either one of them get the victory, I think DJ and Cejudo are slated for August 4th in LA. If that's the case, then they need to fight. They need to make some money. They need to keep the hype train going. So for either one of them, if they win, I think the next guy in line is Jasir Formiga. He had a phenomenal performance against Ben Nguyen, and he's next in line technically. Why not have him fight for a number 1 contender spot? Whoever wins between Cejudo and DJ, I think it'd be Jasir Formiga versus either Sergio Pettis or Joseph Benavidez.
Now, I do want to bring up on another topic about weight cutting. Of course, today we saw about Yoel Romero, missing weight. And then earlier this week, we saw that the UFC is looking like they're going the direction of getting rid of early weigh-ins. What's your thoughts on that? I know a lot of the MMA community, especially UFC fighters, had major thoughts on that.
And it's extremely saddening because, one, I am a fan of Yoel Romero. That's the person I do want to win this weekend. And, it sucks. Your point, too, it's so close, mainly because I know the struggle of weight cutting. But for me, 9 days, 26 pounds, it was a struggle, but it's more mentally tough. And I look at it as I made weight in 9 days, quarter of my body weight. I gave no excuses whatsoever, and I still made weight. But you have, Darren Till, Mackenzie Dern, Yoel Romero, all these guys that have months and months and months for training and preparation of this, but they still miss weight. It's not the nutritionist. It's not, this in the background, that in the background. It's the fighter. There's, for some reason, always an excuse, but they never blame the fighter. They blame the weight guy or, oh, man, their fight was delayed or this or that. It's 100% the fighter, and I say this from day one when I started cutting weight in high school. I've seen people cut weight the same way from day one in high school all the way till now as a professional fighter. Garbage bags, saunas, laxatives, diuretics, this, that, and it's like, guys, it's weight management. Like, we're just not educated enough. And that's, I didn't learn that until I turned professional. It's more of, there's no one there to teach us immediately how to properly manage and cut our weight when we have to. And that's, you think about it as a freshman, if anyone's done wrestling, while listening to this, you go, all right, I got to, cut 10 pounds. How do I do it? Oh, let me look at the varsity guy. Oh, he's running with a garbage bag on. He's, doing this, doing that. Okay, I'm just going to mimic him as like the big brother thing, So it's more of the coaches and the team overall need to really hire someone to teach these fighters how to do it properly. It has nothing to do with the 24-hour weigh-in or 36-hour weigh-in. They did that in high school and even in college. They used to have it 24 hours before, and in '97, 3 kids died because they didn't know how to cut weight, and they're all freshmen. So they decided, oh, you know what, we're going to have weigh-ins an hour before dual matches and 2 hours before tournaments. So people go, oh, I have less time to recover, so I might as well just bump up a weight class. The only problem is no one really cares. They just go, oh, well, now I only have 1 hour or 2 hours to cut weight, or to recover. So that's the bad part is no one's educated, and I think that's the biggest problem here. I think the UFC should, do an education protocol and really, helping us properly manage our weight.
Do you think, and I wanted to get your thoughts with all of your experience in wrestling, and you're looking at Yoel Romero, who's now 41, who's been at the even highest level, the Olympic level, so he's cut weight for a long time. Do you think it's a possibility his body's like no more and dropping this amount of weight that maybe moving up finally, even though I don't know how long he has left, to compete in, but maybe now's the time to make the move that his body just can't really react?
It's a 50-50, I do understand, obviously, once you get older, metabolism slows down, all that stuff, but he is 100% still an athlete. I mean, You see his body, you see his physique, you see the way he competes. It's more of who's behind him helping him, who's behind him really teaching him how to do it properly, and how late did he start managing his weight. And that's the biggest problem with these fighters is they go, oh, I got 2 months to cut, 20 pounds. I can do 20 pounds in 10 days, but I'll probably start maybe 2 weeks out, and then it just slowly goes past that. And they're like, oh, man, I don't even know if I'm going to make weight now. So it's more of they need someone by their side. Again, I have nutrition. I have my weight management specialist. And he is 100% the only reason I took the fight, because I originally said no, called him chuckling about it. He goes, dude, you can make the weight. If I'm confident about it, you should be too. And, we made the weight because of him. We made weight every single fight for 8 straight fights. So it's more of having someone by your side that's not just smart, but good for you as a person and just helping you better in your career. And I was able to do that. And I don't see why any other fighters can't do it. They're just, one, either cheap, or two, they still feel and are hard-headed that they can do it themselves.
And do you think this will be a big mistake, taking away the early weigh-ins?
I really do. I mean, as a fighter, just in general, 24 hours is great, but 36 hours is awesome because, one, I have the 24 hours to still recover, and then the extra time to really just let my body relax and recover. And I think the 36 hours is not just better for myself, but it's better for the fans because they know if I'm that much more recovered, I'm going to put on that much better of a performance.
Well, finally, and we don't want to keep you too long, and we want to thank you again for, taking your time with us here tonight. But with that main event, and co-main event, what are your predictions?
Honestly, the co-main event, Colby Covington, RDA, I for some reason have that feeling, given, yes, Colby is a teammate and a friend, but I really just have that feeling that Colby's going to pull it off. He's going to pull off that upset. You look at his performances against Damian Maia compared to the rest of the guys, Usman and who's the other guy? There's one more, and Woodley, but Colby had the best performance. And he's dominated in pretty much every fight. He's really put on a show, and that's something I'm excited to see how he handles RDA. So I think Colby can pull it off. I don't know if he's going to get the finish, but I can definitely see a decision for Colby. The next one, Yoel Romero, I'm definitely going for him. One, technically a ATC teammate, but just he gets better every single time he gets in there. And I just don't see him losing twice to the same person.
Well, Jose, once again, we want to thank you for joining us here tonight, and we look forward to your next fight. And is there anything you want to say to your fans, friends, or family out there?
Yeah, I just want to say, I have my victory party tonight, and then tomorrow UFC 225, which I'm super excited for because it is in my hometown, Chicago. But, I definitely want to say for everyone who's been a part of my whole career, and finally I've made it to the UFC. I don't say I made it. I say we can. We will together. We are Team Shorty, because if it wasn't for everyone supporting me, the interviews, the media, the fans, friends, family, new friends, fans, and whatnot, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So I really appreciate all the support, and I'm just excited to see what's next for me.
All right, Jose. Well, thank you again. Have a great Friday. Enjoy the fights this weekend, and we look forward to see you back in action.
I actually do have one more thing to say.
Yeah.
You guys are in Dallas, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, I will be down in Houston. I know it's a few hours away, but I'll be down in Houston June 23rd. I will be teaching a seminar at Rising Sun Dojo from 11 to 1. I'll be posting out the flyer soon, so that's something I'm very, very excited for. I'll be doing a seminar June 23rd in Houston, and it's a great MMA seminar and a great thing that's actually going to be sponsored by the local body armor company and Jaws Size, so it's going to be a big thing.
Well, thank you for that, and we'll keep plugging that on the next show as well. And you've heard it. You can definitely go to that seminar there in Houston. You said June 23rd. All right, Jose. Well, thank you again, and we look forward to see you back in that octagon.
I appreciate it, man.
You have a
Take
good
care,
one.
guys.
All right, that was Jose Shorty Torres coming off the win over Jared Brooks last week at UFC Fight Night 131. And, man, sky's the limit for him. Very, very talented flyweight and bantamweight. But I think right now his sights are definitely set on flyweight. So we're going to take a short break here. When we get back, we got more MMA news to talk. Of course, we will break down that UFC 225 card that goes down tomorrow night in Chicago. And, so stay tuned. More right here. MMA On Air on DallasOnAir.com. Welcome back here, MMA On Air. Once again, we want to thank Jose Shorty Torres for calling in this Friday night.
Yeah, we appreciate his time very much. That was awesome.
And it was the slam, it's all around the world. And he was able to capitalize on it. If you haven't seen that fight, check it out. And big things definitely for him. Very talented, undefeated flyweight. All right,
big things. Definitely big things for him coming up.
Before we get into anything else, we definitely want to send out our thoughts to Anthony Bourdain's family. We've sad news this morning. Found out that Anthony Bourdain, and of course he's well-known chef and has hosted No Reservations on CNN, and has passed away due to suicide. And it's just such a tragic thing to hear this morning. And you saw the outpour on Twitter, on social media, and the big thing about Anthony, is even if you never met him, you felt like you knew him personally. You felt like you knew him, just how larger than life his personality was. He would travel around the world, just bringing people together over food. And just getting different perspective, and was an awesome storyteller. And it was just his presence on camera. You felt like, you've known him for a long time, even if you've never met him in your life. That was just kind of the larger than life personality he had. He was also a martial artist. He was, I believe, a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. He's a big fan of MMA. I know he was good friends with Joe Rogan, UFC commentator, and so and he's even I know he did an episode with the Diaz brothers, Nate Diaz and Nick Diaz, and I believe Gilbert Melendez when he's out there in Cali. And he just loved life. The fact that he studied martial arts, he traveled, you could tell. I mean, you could tell that. I mean, he lived something adventure, but and that's one. And I want to get into a deep thing here, but that's just one of those you just never know, behind closed doors. But once again, it's definitely some sad, very sad news. And our thoughts from the show goes out to his family and friends that knew him best.
Indeed, yeah. Rest in peace, Mr. Bourdain.
So it's
definitely
not a good way to wake up on a Friday morning.
Yeah, I hear you.
But we'll get into UFC 225. As we were talking with Jose Shorty Torres, his picks are Colby Covington and Yoel Romero. And honestly, if you look at both of these matchups tomorrow night, it could go really either way. Honestly, stylistically, like he mentioned, is like I don't see Yoel Romero losing twice. That's a very possibility. I mean, he missed weight against Luke Rockhold, and he looked great. I mean, he won every round up until he finished them. And, he's always one power punch away. Although if in my heart, I do feel like Robert Whittaker's going to still do the same thing. And here's the reason why. I think Robert Whittaker, and it's not just because he's 27 or that. I don't think that's a fair argument or assessment or that. But it's just the way he moves. I think he kind of set that blueprint in that first fight, the way he was able to neutralize a lot of that wrestling, the way he moves his hips, the way he angles his boxing. And, I think this is the new breed right here at middleweight. It kind of reminds me to an extent, not as far as like the wrestling aspect, but it kind of has that GSP flair to him. He's very, very modest, very humble, but he has that athleticism. And I mean, these are two really skilled athletes, but I think Robert Whittaker is probably going to pull out a decision. I'm not surprised by if Yoel Romero finds a way to win, but it will be for a non-title bout because Yoel Romero missed weight. So I don't know what will happen if they're going to do a no contest, if they'll have to run it back. I don't know. I mean, I guess you could do a trilogy and finally for time, maybe, but I don't know if they're going to want to take a gamble on that with the weight missing. And so we'll see what happens. But here's the big story too: is it has been almost a year since their last fight, and that was the last time we saw Robert Whittaker in the octagon, just because he's had setbacks with injuries and that. And so, I mean, and Yoel Romero technically has been the more active fighter.
Yeah.
So, in a 5-round fight, we will see.
Yeah,
although
we'll see. It's going to be a great fight. And you said you got Whittaker by decision.
I think we're going to see a lot similar because even with the missed weight. Now, here's the crazy thing, real quick, not to get off. It's still on topic, but there is a crazy statistic. 7-1 or whatever of fighters who have missed weight have won their fights. So it is very interesting, and Yoel missed weight last time and he was victorious. I don't think that necessarily gives him advantage or that. I know there is that argument that gives advantage, but still, it does look unfair in that because the one fighter that did make weight, pushed his body or whatever. And so, but also sometimes that can backfire on you too when you don't make weight and you're draining that much and that. And because I did hear that like they pulled him away and he was in pain and stuff like that because it's just strenuous on the body and stuff like that.
Yeah, it is.
So that's a question mark. Is it how his endurance going to be tomorrow against someone who's really good endurance, and it showed that even in the last fight. And we'll see. We will see. That is, I think that's why it's an intriguing rematch.
I hope that it's way different this time. No decision. I hope there's a KO or a TKO. I favor Whittaker. I would like for him to win, and I hope he can put Romero away in some form or fashion.
He definitely has the ability to, and that's what's so crazy about I'm always, when this first fight is like, this can go either way. Like, I was
TKO.
siding with Rob just because I figured if it went the distance, a lot of, you either get a late stoppage or a decision.
Yeah.
But then, like, Yoel Romero, I mean, he looks like an action figure, and I mean, he's got that power, and he's got that Olympic, level wrestling.
Right.
And that, and so.
Man, he's crazy.
I would kind of still would like to.
Athletic.
He's 41 years old. He does not
41.
move like a 41-year-old.
Man, that guy is unreal.
Well, and here's another thing. I know I saw it somewhere. He is interested in a possible fight with DC.
Ooh, moving up.
Well, yeah,
Wow.
and maybe he's thinking more like if he's the middleweight champion, super fight. And here's the thing with that. And we'll get back to UFC 225 here in a second. But here's what's interesting about that. In the wrestling world, they have a storyline. DC in college wrestled considered one of the great heavyweight wrestlers of all time, Kel Sanderson.
Yeah.
Beat DC.
Right.
Yoel beat him in the Olympic 3 times. Or either worlds or it was either world champions or at the Olympics. I think it might have been worlds. Has beaten Kel Sanderson 3 times. So there's the story 3 times. So there is that when it comes to the wrestling pedigree in that matchup. No, I still think DC would be the favorite because the all-around MMA game favors DC and that. But still, that's a storyline right there. That's something you can see. But I think, right now, going on tomorrow night, that's out the window right now because
right.
not
That's
making
such a
weight.
bummer about him not making weight. I'm not surprised because he's an animal and he's huge, but man, that sucks. I wish there was more on the line. The title on the line makes it way more exciting.
And Jose made a good point. I think some of it is a lack of education. Maybe there are a lot of people who've been doing this for so long that maybe they get a little overconfident, like 2 weeks out, and that could very well be the case. Because someone like Yoel Romero, who's been cutting weight since he was, I'm not gonna say a kid, but definitely a teenager. You would kind of think he should know better in that, and he made weight last summer against Robert Whitaker. Right. So something has changed in that. It definitely, and I do agree. You got to put the blame on the fighter. You can't blame this and that, and because at the end of the day, even as your body, your limits, where, if you feel like you could just walk it off or whatever, then yeah. But I mean, if you're gonna have a tough cut, and you got to begin early or whatever. So, and it's probably mismanagement, but that's why I kind of like about Darren Till. He's like, it's no excuse. I didn't make weight. And then after even though he won the fight, he's like, Stephen Thompson deserves the title shot.
Right.
You don't see everyone do that.
Say that, yes.
So let's go back to that co-main event between RDA and Colby Covington. I know Jose, he knows Colby and he really feels he's going to win. And here's the thing, stylistically, I was thinking about this fight. I still have RDA, but I'm going to say this. RDA has struggled with strong wrestlers before. Khabib, obviously, and then even Tony Ferguson. Now, a lot of that was on the feet, and Tony is just so unorthodox. But, I mean, I think that is a possibility to play in the factor. And I have heard on other podcasts that they think maybe he'll grind out a decision against RDA. I think that's the best way he can win. He's not going to go out there and knock out RDA. I think RDA is the better striker. He's the better grappler. But with that being said, there's some really strong wrestlers out there that can neutralize. And I think Colby's definitely the bigger guy coming in this as well. And I bet
he will be, yeah.
And I think he's got kind of a really good momentum. And honestly, the storyline, rating-wise, going against Woodley, Colby versus Woodley, same camp or former camp.
Right.
You could build more of that.
A lot. It's good, yeah. And there's angles you can play off of it, and it's an interesting matchup for sure. It's definitely an interesting matchup. I will say I really dislike Colby Covington. He's very full of himself. Hopefully he can back it up, or Dos Anjos or somebody else is going to tear him.
Well, and I'm thinking about this too. Is like, and I've always been not the biggest fan of necessarily trash talk, especially if, like, the thing with Conor is it works so well because he is. I mean, he's just comedic. I've always said Conor could be in comedy, but here's the thing with what Colby is doing. It's working. Everyone's talking about him. And the thing is it creates storyline. And in a world today where we need some kind of extra something to come, especially with fighting, and for casual fans that are used to Conor McGregor or maybe came in during the Chael Sonnen time, or whatever, that sells the most. And it's hard to sell two nice guys sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, RDA is definitely not a trash talker. We even saw that during when him and Connor were supposed to fight. So, and I don't think he would say too much to Tyron Woodley and not overlooking RDA. Like I said, I edge with him here.
Me
but
too.
what fight would sell more, the trash talker or who has strong wrestling, or RDA, who's very humble in that, definitely explosive of that.
Yeah.
If you're going to have a headline pay-per-view event, I think the trash talking is definitely going to sell because people are going to want to see him lose or that. And there may be some people who love that and are going to support him. There's more of a dialogue there. But I do edge with RDA. I think he either gets a decision or he's going to get late round TKO.
Both sound good to me. Obviously, I prefer a TKO, but I think probably a decision. I'm going to go decision RDA.
Decision RDA. I mean, I think that's a safe bet. I do want to say this because I whether agree or disagree with a certain fighter, whether it's personality, whatever, I do always give everybody a benefit of the doubt, and I do think if Colby wins, I mean, and there's definitely a good chance he wins decision. He will find a way to grind out. And maybe tire out RDA. Use that
Definitely
clinch.
possible.
I mean, he's very good at that, and and he did look great against Damian Maia in that. And maybe this is where he's really peaking. I mean, he's really evolving in that. And sometimes fighters come in, we've seen, and they get emotional and they go after and they make mistakes. Right. And this is where Colby can the way he'll capitalize on. He'll let RDA move forward, and he'll keep utilizing that takedown, and he'll wear him down, and that. So it could very well happen. But those are our picks for the two main event. We'll work our way down. We did pick last week between Holly Holm and Megan Anderson, and I do see a lot of people saying, who is Megan Anderson? And I feel bad that this is kind of the image because they don't even give her a picture of that. And this is the former Invicta 145 champion. People forget that this was the fighter that they were trying to set up to fight Cyborg. She is a legit featherweight. She was the former Invicta featherweight champion when Cyborg vacated it. And, I mean, she's very tall, rangy, and she works out of Kansas City with James Krause, and Tim Elliott was out there. And, she hasn't fought in a while because I think card issues, visa. She is originally from Australia. But, she's been wanting that Cyborg fight. Well, this, fighting Holly Holm is a way to get it.
Awesome fight, yeah.
And honestly, I'm going to say this. It is not an easy fight for Holly Holm. It is a very much dangerous fight. She's fighting a very long, rangy, taller fighter she's pretty well-rounded, really pushes the pace, very powerful, pretty strong. And it's going to be a big task for Holly Holm. Where I edge a little bit more with Holly Holm is one, experience. This is a big stage.
Definitely experience.
Big stage.
Definitely.
The way she moves a lot, great counter. She may make this more of a technically frustrating. I could definitely see decision win for Holly Holm, maybe even split decision. I think Megan can have some bright moments. I mean, I'm not surprised if Megan wins. This is one of those matchups that I think it's too close to call in the sense if you really know Megan and you follow her, you will see why it could be tough to pick this call because just her style, her pressure, and she's going to be the bigger fighter. She's the true 145 coming in. And Holly did have some issues with, I think, Cyborg, I think a little bit having that power and strength. Well, Megan Anderson is the next powerful featherweight there.
Yeah.
So, but Holly does find a way to rise in big moments. And she is one that, when she's dropped a fight, she finds a way to come right back. And that technique, I think she'll end up possibly pulling out a decision. One way, unanimous or split. But don't be surprised. Once again, I give every fighter a benefit of doubt, and I give Megan Anderson, I'm a big fan of hers, a big benefit of doubt. The only reason why I'm also siding with Holly Holm is I think kind of that experience right there. And she's been more active. We haven't seen Megan in a little while, but this is a chance for Megan to come in and have a great debut. Although I do think, I think either way, however she would win the fight, we'll set her up possibly with Cyborg, depending on Amanda Nunes, because I know that's a super fight they still want to make.
Right.
But a legitimate featherweight fight is Megan Anderson. So, and I think if she wins by stoppage. Actually,
really,
I think if she wins, she'll win best.
Holly,
yeah,
awesome.
TKO second round.
Awesome. Is that your pick?
My pick is I'm gonna slide a little bit with Holly. You know, it's a toss. It's a pick 'em. I think it's a puckin'. But I like both. Like I would like to see a legit featherweight versus Cyborg. And that's why, like, this is tough. If this was any other fight, I think I would pick Megan over any, and even over. I just think, you know, this could be maybe a more frustrating style. I think, you know, Holly has such great fight IQ, and you know she's been in there with the top of the best. And I think, and you know she's coming off a loss, and I think you know that will push her further. So, but we'll see. I think it's one of the most overlooked fights on the card.
On the card, yeah.
Oh yeah, this could easily be a main event.
Yeah, easily, definitely. Holly Holm's got a big name, and she's a draw, you know, for hardcores. And Megan Anderson, Invicta experience, of course, as you mentioned. Yeah, definitely. Now, interesting fight. Looking forward to it.
Very interesting fight. Another fight on there that we didn't actually cover last week was Tai Tuivasa taking on Andre Arlovski. And we were talking about this before the show. Tai Tuivasa, I mean, he's I think he's still undefeated. Big heavyweight prospect coming out of Australia, and he's got some incredible wins. 7-0. Some great finishes in the UFC. And I mean, he's very explosive. He's very mobile. And I mean, you know, here's the thing with Andre Arlovski. You can never count this guy out because, I mean, for a while his back was against the wall, and then he went on a tear up until he faced Stipe Miocic, and then he had a little bit of a downward spiral again. Then he came back in his last fight and looked great against Stefan Struve. So you never know which Andre Arlovski you're going to get.
Yeah,
but
he's wild, man. He's always in some wild fights.
And I'm a big Andre Arlovski fan, but if I have to side a little bit, I've got to go with Tai Tuivasa. It's not just because he's younger than that. He's just so explosive and
maybe more hard hitting, maybe more power.
I think he finishes this in the first round.
First round?
I think he may catch him with a knee or that. And unfortunately, you know, Arlovski, you know, we see him with the chin. And honestly, I'm always going to root for Arlovski. I've always been a big fan of his. But, I mean, this guy comes out of nowhere throwing jumping knees and stuff. I mean, he fights.
More agile, more unpredictable.
More agile. I mean, he fights like he's a middleweight. I mean, the way he moves. I mean, but that's great. That's what the UFC heavyweight division needs. They need more of these prospects that are unpredictable.
People coming up, more names thrown in the mix. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. I mean, like I said, I think if Andre Arlovski wins, well, I think he would have to outwork him for 3 rounds, maybe get a submission in the second or third, which he has a very great submission game. He doesn't always go for it. He's got dangerous leg locks. We saw that Tim Sylvia back in 2004. But I think it was 2004, 2005. And so I think though ultimately Tai Tuivasa will pull this off first round.
First round KO.
And then he says he wants to do what's called a shoey. So, okay, if you don't know what a shoey is, it's I think a traditional thing. It's a beer drinking thing. I think it happens over in Australia. I know Ariel was talking about it, but if you're listening to this, hold your stomachs in that. So there's this boot. I think I'm telling this right. And you fill up with beer, and people spit in it and that, and then the person drinks.
I don't know about the spit. Yeah. I thought it was just you pour a beer in a shoe and chug
I've heard Ariel talk about some people, but I definitely know people pour random beer. So that's also, if you're a germaphobe, let's just say if you're a germaphobe, that might not be as great. And I know he has a shirt that was made with him that has the shoey or that. I don't know, some kind of tradition. But we shall see. We will see.
That's a good heavyweight fight, man.
That is good.
Old lion, new dude coming up.
And that's a little overlooked too.
A little bit, because there's so many damn good fights on this
There
card.
are, and knock on wood that every one of them has really has stayed a hold. And then another one.
So far they have. It's tomorrow night.
It is tomorrow night, and kicking off the main card is going to be
That's right.
CM Punk taking on Mike Jackson. And, you know, we've had Mike on here, and, you know, we made our predicts last week. We both said we think Mike Jackson. But here's the thing. You know, you cannot not like CM Punk. His personality is great. He's very, I mean, he even said, I wish, you know, we would be on the Fight Pass if it was up to us, you know, because a lot of people are mad that, you know, the Overeem and Curtis Blades fight got bumped to prelims, but CM Punk is on the pay-per-view. Well, here's why. Still, it's a business. He is a huge draw. This is also in Chicago, his hometown, so there is
Yep.
even bigger draw.
More of a reason to have him on the main card.
I did not know he was a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu blue belt, which is great. So he's definitely evolved his ground game since he fought, Mickey Gall, which ended in a rear naked choke. Both of those fighters lost to Mickey, which, I mean, Mickey Gall is still a really good prospect at 170, and he's a BJJ brown belt. But, in this fight, every fight starts on the feet, and the question is, it's not just the jiu-jitsu aspect of CM Punk. Where's his wrestling, his takedowns? Because you got to force that if you're going to get to the ground. Maybe
right.
you say he has the slight edge in the ground just based on if you get a blue belt, I mean, you've put quite a bit of time to earn that.
Right.
But you got to find a way to the ground. Sweeps, trips, force him to the cage, find a way, get a double leg and that. But sometimes it depends on how quick you move that. I mean, you got Mike Jackson, who's a kickboxer and a boxer. Yeah, he may not have a wealth of experience, but he has enough striking experience to end this pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And, I mean, if you shoot in just wrong, you
I don't think
catch
people
a
are
knee.
paying attention to that.
Well, I think a lot of people see one aspect and they don't know the whole story.
Right.
And the thing is, I mean, you don't become a pro boxer just by just stepping into the ring and say, I want to be a pro boxer. I think he's definitely had some amateur boxing. And here's the thing is like, in those little gloves and that, I mean, he's still going to be able to know enough to work your angles. Yes, he lost quickly to Mickey Gall, but Mickey Gall shot right in he did drop him, but he also went right in and was able to capitalize on that grappling.
Right.
But that's a BJJ brown belt utilizing that.
Right.
I don't know that right away CM Punk will have that. If he does, I mean, it's a great story. Like, I'm not like, anti-CM, but I think it's still a cool story either way. I just think if he can't get the fight to the ground, it's all Mike Jackson. I mean, there's just that experience right there in the hands. I think he could catch him and drop him. I do think that's probably what's going to happen in the first round. Although if this goes 3 rounds, I mean, that's a win for both guys right there, but especially CM Punk.
I bet decision Mike Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that. It could be a technical. If CM Punk wins, and this sounds correct, but I think it could be by jiu-jitsu because that's obviously what he's been focusing a lot on. I mean, of course, he's been looking at his hands, but if he could get the fight to the ground and that, maybe that's where, a guillotine or that, but I think that would be his way just because all the other elements I do think favor, Mike Jackson. My big thing is I wish CM Punk would have gotten this earlier, and here's the reason why. He's definitely a very athletic guy. People, to do pro wrestling, you got to be, and the stuff he did, my pro wrestling days when I was a fan, that's how I knew CM Punk, and actually he was marketed as this MMA fighter. He was like, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai. That was his character.
Really?
And his finishing maneuver was a submission, and that. So
man, I honestly did not know that. I used to pay so much attention to WWF. Well, when it was
and this was just back in 2006 and that. And so he was promoted as this, straight edge extreme
I knew the
fighter.
Straight edge thing.
And that's true. That's not a real gimmick. That's not a fake gimmick. But I always assumed he had an actual martial arts background that they turned into a storyline, but they didn't. But still, to do that, to be a pro wrestling, it is entertainment, but you got to be athletic. And he's had surgeries and stuff like that, and I believe he's 37, 38 years old. So not saying that he can't win, just saying I think if he was several years or more younger and with more time, he could possibly be, at least get some wins in here. The question is if either one guy wins, will they be kept around? Will they get other fights? I think they should.
Who knows?
I mean,
they're both 0-1.
Well, but here's the thing: there's a lot of other fights that you could still possibly make. Other guys, you do give a chance. In
That's
this,
true.
I mean,
true.
Bringing someone in just to fight once and then let them go, and that I don't think makes sense. And that yes, a lot of people look at it as a gimmick fight. Well, straight away, I mean, just say, okay. I mean, because look at Mickey Gall. Mickey Gall came in; he was only 1-0 when he took on Mike Jackson. A lot of people would look at that and be like, "Hey, that's not fair." And technically, I know Brock Lesnar was this beast athlete, but he was only 1-0.
Is he coming back?
I don't think so, or at least
don't think so.
As far as we know. Plus, I think he has to go through everything. You saw all that.
Yeah,
but I don't think he's very excited. And there's not. I don't think there's really completely a fight. I mean, maybe, DSC, Stipe, but I mean, he's not young either. I mean, he's in his late 30s now too.
Yeah, he is.
So we'll see. I mean, he makes good enough money in the WWE, and he's already been champion before. So we'll see. But going back to this fight, I have to give the slight edge to Mike Jackson. I think he can definitely get it. Maybe a TKO in the first round. But but I'm going to say this. I mean, it's been almost 2 years since we've seen CM Punk, and he's got a blue belt, so he's definitely willing to improve, and that always is great too. And it's in Chicago, so we will see. And he's no stranger to the big lights, So we will see on that. And then going down to the prelims, Joseph Benavidez. Joseph Benavidez, Sergio Pettis. We talked to Jose, Torres about that, and he's looking at Pettis. That very well could. We haven't seen.
Man, that's actually on the Fight Pass.
That's
card.
on the Fight Pass prelims, which is crazy. Like you said,
so
this could easily be a main card.
Yeah. Well, the top of it doesn't really matter which fights we talk about, but under CM Punk and Mike Jackson,
it's Curtis Blades and Overeem.
Right.
And I think last week we both picked Overeem. I think that will happen. Curtis Blades, he is very durable and he's surprising. He's kind of the wild card in that division. Oh, yeah. I mean, he looked great against Mark Hunt, but I do think Overeem gets this win. He'll either get a stoppage or a decision.
Yeah, I agree. Stoppage.
Yeah,
for sure.
And he definitely needs it. I mean, he definitely.
I hope that's what I said last week.
I think so. I think we both think
right
this could be like a TKO, maybe first or second round. And then also, of course, Rashad Coulter is fighting.
Can't wait.
Is it Charles Della? What's
it is Chris De La Rocha.
Chris De La Rocha.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely, and this is unbiased opinion because I definitely know Rashad personally. And then I've trained with him, but because I have trained with him and seen him, I do think he will win this fight. I know this fight is one of those sort of back against the wall. I know both fighters, I believe, are coming in 0-2 in the UFC. I could be wrong on that, but here's what I think. This fight is definitely short notice for De La Rocha. And I think Rashad will be able to capitalize in that first round.
Oh, yeah.
Rashad has big power. And I think he'll be able to capitalize. I think he's going to catch De La Rocha early, and I think he's going to put him away.
Put him away, maybe first round. I hope.
Yeah, and Rashad moves really well, and you don't want to take a short notice fight on against Rashad. I've seen some.
No.
So, but I think this is Rashad's.
Yeah, I got Rashad too.
And speaking of Rashad Evans and Anthony Smith are going to do battle. And this could be Rashad Evans' last. It's do or die for him. He even said that. If he loses, I think he will retire.
I bet so, too. He's been around for a long time, man.
And Anthony Smith has
Lots
some
of
momentum.
Big fights. Right.
Ooh, I'm a huge Rashad fan. He's one of the probably top 5 favorite fighters of all time. I mean, just skill-wise, personality, great guy.
That back and forth between him and John Jones.
Oh, is great.
And Rampage.
Well, even his fight with Michael Bisping was great.
Yeah.
I mean, everything he does, I mean, he's going to bring it. I mean, he has had some lackluster performance, where, against Little Nog and even against, what's his name? Dan Kelly, where he just didn't look fully in there.
Oh, man. I didn't realize Anthony Smith beat Lombard. I forgot about that.
I mean, I may have to go, though, slightly with Anthony Smith. Here's the reason why. This guy's so explosive. He's still up and coming. He's still in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when your mind is like thinking the R word, retired and in and out, that can be very
detrimental.
Dangerous. Yeah, and Evans has been in those battles, and stuff. And Smith is just hungry. And like you said, the Lombard, I mean, he's had some impressive wins. Obviously, Evans has too. But, I mean, you're talking about a long career, and this is guy wants what Evans had.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he may get a stoppage over Evans. I could be wrong. I'm always pulling, the bias is I, of course, would love to see Rashad win. And I think if he does win, he wins a decision. But I think if this fight happened 3 years ago, I would pick Rashad.
Definitely Rashad several years ago. But yeah, Anthony Smith might be surging, and if he takes out Rashad, that's real good for him.
That's good for him, and I mean he's just been so explosive. I'm gonna go first or second round TKO Anthony Smith, which and I say it pains me to say because like I said, Rashad's one of my favorite. I just think whenever a fighter's kind of thinking, oh, this is they know it's do or die, but when they really say it and they're like, I could retire, it's just kind of and they're not even talking about getting back to that title again. That's when you kind of see the end. And it's what happened to Vitor Belfort too.
Right.
Against Machida. So, yeah, I think we're going to see Smith
take the win.
Yeah.
I'm going to say first round knockout, Anthony Smith.
First round knockout.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Rashad's probably going to get flattened. I don't know for sure. I like Rashad. I want him to win, but yeah, he'll probably get knocked out first round and say bye-bye.
It's tough because, I've been Rashad's fight against Sean Samlin is what got me really into MMA. I watched a replay of that on UFC Unleashed on Spike TV.
Oh, yeah.
And, I've always seen MMA, but I never, thoroughly sat down and watched it and just seen all the elements, the wrestling, the karate, everything, and, of course, that beautiful knockout, head kick knockout. But then that really hooked me when I was really analyzing the elements, just coming from a karate and wrestling background. I was like, oh. And then from then, I was just hooked to all the UFC Unleashes and then going to Blockbuster and renting old fight cards from years before that, and then finally ordering pay-per-views. So, but it was all because Rashad Evans, really, his fight with Sean Salmon that really drew me in. So if this happens to be, not saying if this happens to be Evans' last fight, it could be win or lose. Definitely want to thank Rashad for bringing
entertainment for years,
Big and fights. Really lighting that fire of MMA for me and bringing that.
Oh, yeah.
So we will see what happens
on that one. Let's see, Benavidez and Sergio Pettis.
Well,
how about that fight, man?
Torres had Pettis in that. I can see that. I do think, though, Benavidez wins. And here's the reason why. I know he's been away for a little bit, injury and that.
Yeah.
But I think, we saw Pettis struggle with Cejudo and that wrestling that, and I just think Benavidez, he's this much quicker in that wrestling. I think he'll win a decision. Benavidez is one of those guys that he beats everybody else in that division, but, it's just the Mighty Mouse, and he's just good at neutralizing, shutting you down.
Shutting them down.
And he did that even against Ali Bhagavatimov, who's very strong flyweight. And, he's done it against, strong grapplers. Even at bantamweight, he did it. So he's just so fast, so quick. He's got great submissions. I don't think he'll submit Pettis, but I think he'll win a 3-round unanimous decision.
I'm gonna go third round TKO Benavidez. I think ground and pound. He'll wear him out on the ground with the takedowns.
Although with Pettis winning, it does make things more interesting, like we said, with the flyweight.
Indeed. But, it would be a little bit more beneficial to the division if Pettis won.
It's just Benavidez' style. It's just that pressure. He's overwhelming.
That layoff, though.
That's a question, too. That's a question. But then again, ask GSP about layoffs.
True. And, oh, man, Clay Guida and Charles Oliveira.
Yeah.
This card is so
That's a great
stacked,
fight.
Man.
That's a great fight. It was supposed to be Bobby Green.
Right. He got injured, or?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I was kind of surprised. But Charles Oliveira is a gamer, win or lose. So I don't really know how to pick that fight, but it's a pick 'em. It could go either way. I think if Guida wins, he's going to win a decision. If Charles wins, he's going to win by submission or TKO. Charles is a great Muay Thai style fan.
He is. I favor Guida. I always love watching him fight.
Especially short notice.
Yeah. Guida.
I don't think he's cut his hair.
No, probably not. Oh man, when was the last time he finished somebody?
It was only a few fights ago. I think he had either a finish or he had a decision. He's always been a grinder.
Yeah,
he's had the wins, the submissions, but he's just gonna overwhelm you.
Man, do you remember when he stopped or when he ground out Anthony Pettis?
Oh yeah, that
shut
was
him down completely. All the hype with Pettis.
Pettis was looking to be fight for the title, and
Clay Guida said
he took that fight. He didn't have to take that fight. He took that fight, but Guida did the same thing to Nate Diaz too.
Right.
He shut him down.
Right.
Nate was on a tear, and he stopped him. So but we're about to wrap things up here. There's a lot of other fights on here, but tomorrow night, Ricardo Lamas is on there.
Carlos Esparza, Claudia
That's a good
Gadelia. Man, card is stacked. I cannot wait.
Yeah,
I cannot wait.
And real quick, before we go, we want to always give a shout out to our sponsor here, Fight Fit Lifestyle.
Of course.
And once again, summer's coming around, so make sure to get a Fight Fit Lifestyle tank top. But there's also a lot of great training gear on there. FightFitLifestyle.com. Get all your fight apparel. And we're always excited. They're doing big things over there. And, of course, they also have a radio show every Friday, Fight Fit Lifestyle Radio, that you can check out as well. Well, once again, we want to thank Jose Shorty Torres for joining us at the beginning of the hour. A lot of big things possibly in the future for him. And we will be back here soon. Probably not next Friday, but hopefully back week after that. And other than that, everybody take care. Have a great Friday, great weekend. And we'll be back at our normal time, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time.
All right.